Welcome back, everybody. Another episode of Strong Conversations here at the Simpson Strong Tie booth at the International Builder Show in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. I am sitting down here with the one, the only, the iconic. Can we go with iconic?
If you like.
Jeff Shore.
If you like. Thank you very much. I wish my mother were here to hear you say that, but thank you. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
it's amazing for you to be here. We were just talking outside about some of the connections that your organization, that you have, that my organization has,
Yeah.
primarily around Go West Creative.
Right.
So shout out to Rick, shout out to Matt, shout out to other Matt.
Those guys are great. We love working with those guys.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
They're really Don't tell them, though.
Okay, fair enough. We'll just edit that out right
This
there.
is all, Matt, I need you to edit out all the nice things I just said about you.
This is great. The people can't see it, but we're swarming with people around. You guys got a great location here. And there are conversations happening all over. It's pretty cool. A lot of energy on the floor.
A lot of buzz. I mean, we're hearing screws and fasteners going in.
Right.
Lots of demos, which is always great for a salesperson going out there, putting the product in the hands of the people. We were thinking next year, Jeff, maybe we elevate this like we have almost like a floating studio in the middle.
I like it.
And we get more people.
Invite me back, please. I like it.
You're going to be hosting this next year.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll be on that side of the studio, and you'll be talking to me, hopefully.
Consider it done.
But we were just right before we hit record.
Yeah.
We just realized that we, at some point, maybe not neighbors in the same space and time, but we're growing up in the same area of the world.
You could have walked from my elementary school to your elementary school. So
I feel like, the Stanton Stars may be slightly elevated over Sydney.
You can't beat the Sydney Lions. I'm sorry.
That is a better mascot.
It is indeed.
It's funny. It's weird what sticks with you. I always felt like I had less than ideal mascots for my schools.
Yeah.
But I guess I didn't get that choice.
But it was funny because it was the Stanton Stars. But then when you went to junior high at the time, it would have been to the A.B. Morris Meteors. So you went from stars to meteors.
Wow.
That's a very astral theme going on.
And it feels like an elevation. It feels like what they call a promotion.
Yeah.
Right? So, let's talk about you and Shore Consult. First of all, Shore Consulting, what is it that you do for the uninitiated?
Yeah. Well, we work with a lot of the largest home builders all around the country on their sales management efforts. If you've ever walked into a model home and talked to a salesperson, there's a pretty good chance somebody on my team trained those salespeople. So I've got a group of trainers that work with salespeople. I spend most of my time working with executives on executive coaching and development. But we love this business. Shore Consulting is 26 years old.
Wow.
We work with a lot of the really, really large builders around the country. It's great.
How did you start? I mean, how did you decide to do this?
I mean, I started in sales way back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. But I did pretty well in sales. And then I was with a company. It was called Kaufman & Broad at the time. It's called KB Home now. It sort of went through that progression of sales manager and vice president and then eventually national sales director. And then went out on my own in 1999. And it's been so much fun. Yeah.
Was it scary to go out on your own?
Well, there was a big reorganization because at the time KB had just bought a big builder, and they offered me a position as part of the reorganization that I didn't want. So we just said, maybe it's time to negotiate some lovely parting gifts, and thanks for playing the game.
Yeah.
So I took a little time off first, and then because I knew so many people who had been through KB and were now populating other builders. Then I just picked up the phone and just said, hey, not sure what I want to do, but you got any work? And before you know it, I need business cards and I need a fax machine and I had a business. So it was a solopreneur for a number of years, but we've grown dramatically over the last 10.
Dramatically, I think, is the right word for that. So what was that like when you knew you were onto something and that trajectory just went straight up?
Yeah, well, it really happened by necessity because I was a solopreneur. It was just me. I was doing a lot of training, a lot of boots on the ground, 7-hour days, different city every day. And it was a grind. And how do you scale that?
Yeah.
You can only, you only have so much life in you. And so the idea of growing, I couldn't. I was absolutely capped. And I joined an entrepreneurial coaching program. And the first thing that Dan Sullivan said at Strategic Coach was, you have to simplify in order to multiply. And he said, right now you are up against your ceiling of complexity. So if you want to grow at all, there's no room for growth. So I had to really rethink. I couldn't look at it and say, I'm just going to incrementally grow another 10% and another 10%. I literally had to reinvent if I was going to grow. And that's what I did.
So, talk to me about today,
Yeah.
in the now. 26 years later,
Yeah.
like you said, out of necessity, you have scaled up and are doing a fantastic job. Like you said, chances are, if you're talking to somebody in this industry,
Yeah.
they've been trained by one of your
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah.
Beyond that consulting business, you're an author, you're a public speaker.
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking about the opening to the International Builder Show
Yeah.
yesterday. You're
Right.
sharing the stage with like a David Spade,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got this big production number. How do you handle all that? I mean, how does that all come about?
Well, look, first of all, I just full confession. I spend most of my days waiting for the other shoe to drop. So the imposter syndrome. People are going to figure out I'm making it up for a living. I live that every day. The difference is I use that to motivate me to look at it and say, okay, if I'm feeling a little inadequate, well, get adequate. What is
Right.
that going to do? So I have a high achievement drive, and I'm just constantly pushing myself to learn more, to broaden. My biggest fear, I think, is being irrelevant. So I always feel sort of barely adequate to whatever task that I'm doing. And when I start feeling like I'm overly adequate, then I figure out a way to raise the bar and do something different.
Do you ever, maybe just answer the question. I was going to say, do you ever feel satisfied when you're done with a project or an event or anything
Yeah.
like that? Or do you think I could have done this,
deeply,
this, and this?
deeply. Yeah. I am I like to think of myself as I'm one of the happiest people that I know, but there's a specific connection between happiness and gratitude. So I am never one of those people that says, okay, that's done, check the box and move on. No, we have in my company, we use Slack as our internal communication. And the most popular channel on Slack is Daily Wins, where everybody has to go in and say, this is it. This is what went right today. Because there's so many things, if you're running a big business, that are going to go wrong.
Yeah.
You have to intentionally go out and find the things that are going right. So we celebrate those wins a lot. And I'm very proud of the work that we do. I'm proud of the team that we've constructed. And so I want to be able to celebrate that. It gives me a great sense of joy and satisfaction.
How important is it to a salesperson's process or to their, call it success,
Yeah.
to be introspective and to basically replay the game tape in whatever platform that is?
Yeah.
Is that necessary to?
Yeah, Sam, that's a really good question, and an important question, because I think that's one of the big problems with salespeople, not just in our industry but in all industries, is really a lack of self-awareness, a lack of emotional intelligence as to who they are, how they come off, and what they bring to the table. And oftentimes, salespeople are so either self-important or my product that they forget that it's not about you and it's not about your project. It's about the person's. You and I were talking about comedy, right? I listen to the serious comedy stations. I find them absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
And the difference between the very, very best comedians are the ones who you can tell they didn't start out to say, how can I be funny? They started out to say, how will that person appreciate what I'm about to say?
Yeah.
And I think sales is the same way.
So what's a common, maybe outside of what we just talked about, what's a common mistake that a sales professional makes that you see and go, man, if you just didn't do that, or you did more of this,
right? Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah, that one's easy. And I'll just a very, very abbreviated story. My check engine light comes on in the car. I take it to my mechanic. He calls me, the day later, you got a bad catalytic converter, but that's not the biggest of your problems. Your transmission smells funny. And this is an SUV that was 10 years old. And he was like, you're about to spend $8,000 to fix this. And, the car may not be worth it. Right. Mm. So where am I now? I'm at a car dealership. Well, the question is, how important is that backstory to the car salesperson?
Right.
One would think would be critical.
Yeah.
3 dealerships, no one asked. I wasn't going to give it away for free, but I would have answered the question if you asked me.
They didn't ask why you were there.
Correct. That's right. So the plague of so many salespeople is that they are so consumed with trying to figure out what you're moving to that they neglect to figure out what you're coming from.
Interesting.
And that is at its core level what separates great salespeople from everybody else. Salespeople are insanely curious about the backstory. Why are you here? And when you know that, it changes everything. I don't care if you're selling homes or shoes or pens or heavy equipment. Doesn't matter. You got to figure out why are you talking to me in the first
Yeah.
place? Because if your life were perfect, we would not be having this conversation.
It's interesting in that analogy too. Like you said, I think when people think of salespeople, the image that they have in their mind more often than not is the used car salesman.
Yeah.
And that is a bad connotation. There's so many wonderful, tremendous salespeople that we interact with every single day of our lives,
Yeah.
whether we know it or not.
Right.
But that's not what people think of. They don't
Right.
think of, man, I really need a good salesperson right
Right.
now. It's, oh, this guy's what was the phrase I heard? Everyone wants to buy, nobody wants to be sold.
Right.
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 And how does that stigma, how do we address that stigma
Yeah.
as salespeople?
I mean, the struggle is real.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. We have this image in our mind of that guy, with the polyester suit and the
Yes.
product and the hair and the chest hair with the medallion and the pinky ring, and he smells like Old Spice, covering up cigarette smoke. It's not difficult to come up with that image in your mind. But as you said, the people that we know who are salespeople, friends, family members, they're pretty good people.
Yeah.
So I think what it comes down to is the idea that there's a shortcut, there's a psychological hack here, and that is the connection between likability and trust. If I like you, I tend to trust you.
Right.
And that's critical because trust is the foundation for every sales conversation. So there's something to be said, you say you can't judge a book by its cover. If I'm interviewing a salesperson, he grows on you is not the trait that I'm looking for, right?
That's, when you say that, and in the context of how we're talking, Jeff, you're absolutely right. That is like a fungus, right?
It is.
Yeah.
Exactly. I need somebody who is instantly likable, because what's interesting about that is that if I like you, I tend to trust you. That shouldn't make sense. That's how con men make their living. They get you to like them, then they get you to trust them, and they take advantage of you. But that connection between like and trust is really, really strong. And I think we got a lot of salespeople who are much more into the showmanship than they are into that. Let me just be a genuine person and treat you like a genuine person.
No, it's so true. I mean, people want to do business with people that they trust.
Yeah, totally.
In the digital age that we're in, I mean, I walking the floor, seeing the floor, people that have been coming in here, sitting down on the Strong Conversations podcast couch. Yeah. We see technology everywhere. I mean, you can look out of this fishbowl of the studio and you see what we call our tech tower, and it's showing all of our software offerings, and we're a hardware company.
Yeah.
It's omnipresent.
Yeah.
How much because of that, we have so much information.
Yeah.
We have so much data. We have so much analytics. We have so much in terms of numbers.
Right.
Is it too much? Do we rely too much on the numbers?
We do. I'm sorry, but we do. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be using the numbers, but we think in terms of big data, right? So I live in the home building world. I work with some of the largest home builders in the country, and we look at migration patterns and socioeconomic changes and psychographics and all of these things that we're going to learn from researchers. What about the small data? What about the conversation that takes place with one person who is an emotional wreck because they're going through? And so we should leverage the software and the tech tools. We should do all of that, but for the purpose of building deeper relationships, not in the place of building deeper relationships.
And that is a mindset shift that people, in my opinion, absolutely need to hear.
Yeah.
If nothing else, in my opinion, if they take nothing else from this episode, it's what you just said right there.
Yeah.
It's not in place of.
It's not in place of. It's to support. Yeah.
So I was on your website.
Yeah.
And I was watching a lot of your videos.
We had heard somebody was on the web. We didn't know who it was. Turned out to be you. Yeah.
It was my team, which was me.
All right, okay.
There's no I in team, but there is an M and an E, right? So, and I was watching some videos, and I'm going to need you to correct, because I'm probably going to paraphrase this and butcher it along the way.
Yeah.
But you were there was a percentage of people who make decisions, the people that you're selling to.
Yeah.
They make decisions with emotion.
Right.
Versus data, statistics, logic.
Right.
What was that percentage again?
Yeah, this is the work of a Danish researcher named Martin Lindstrom. He hooked people up to a functional MRI so he could see what part of the brain was firing when they were making purchase decisions.
Yeah.
85% emotion, 15% logic. This is how we roll.
85%.
Yeah.
Think about that. If you're a salesperson listening or watching this right now, to your point about data metrics and maybe relying on that too much,
Yeah.
that's not what's driving the decision-making
Correct.
process more
Right.
often than not.
Yeah. No, I don't think customers are. I know I'm not. I don't think they're self-aware about that in real time.
Yeah.
Is every now and then you'll make a purchase that is highly emotional and you know it, but for the most part, you think you're using more of your logical brain than you don't. The logical brain is there to support whatever your emotional brain wants. It's to
Yeah.
give you a rationalization, because if there is a serious downside or risk, that doesn't exist in the logical brain. That too exists in the emotional brain. So the emotion drives us to purchase. The emotion also drives us not to purchase.
Mm.
So one of the things that I've been teaching our clients, we think about how to fuel a purchase decision. Here's a promotion. Here's an incentive. Here's a cool new angle or product or whatever it is. We don't think a lot about, well, what's the friction that's preventing that decision?
Yeah.
What are the things that are in the way? Let's remove those things first and make it easier for somebody to move forward.
So in the consulting world,
Yeah.
What gives you that energy? I mean, I'm sure you have so many testimonials from your clients.
Yeah.
Is that like is it that moment when they come back and go, Jeff, everything that you taught me just worked, and here's the case study to prove it? Is that what gets you up and go, this is why I'm doing this?
Well, yes. If you take it one step further and say the work that I want to do with an organization translates all the way through to a home buyer.
Yeah.
So I want there to be this cascade, this waterfall of, and this sounds horrible, goodness.
Yeah.
That moves from the way that I communicate with my clients to the way that they communicate with their end buyers. I just think the world needs more of that in general. So,
You have to be patient for that process to play out, though.
well, and you have to look. You have to expose. You have to be exposed, right? It's again. We'll go back to the comedy analogy.
Yeah.
If you're not funny, you know it pretty quick because there are people who are not laughing.
It is instant
feedback,
gratification
right?
and feedback.
Absolutely. You know immediately what works. You know immediately what doesn't work. But if you're in the long game on something like starting your own business,
Yeah.
and entrepreneurship, whatever it happens to be, there is a lot of patience, but there's also a lot of failure.
Yeah.
And so then I play goalie for an ice hockey team, a rec ice hockey team. And one of the things I love about it is if a goal goes in, everybody knows. I can't go, my bad. Everybody knows it's your bad. We watched the goal go in. But you fail so publicly that you get the lesson so much more profoundly.
Yeah.
So if you only fail a little bit, it doesn't affect you emotionally, and you don't learn as much.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said about putting yourself out there, failing in a spectacular fashion, and dramatically accelerating the learning.
And then you get to actually own that process too.
Correct.
Right.
That's right.
Although I would say, when it comes to being a goalie and ice, your defenseman were probably just out of position. Right.
That's
Shout out to the old
so
team.
you know a little bit about what I do as a goalie, is it?
My daughter, my 11-year-old daughter,
Yeah.
the first organized sport she ever played was ice hockey.
There you go.
And then she discovered soccer.
Yeah.
And I looked at the equipment sales to purchase all the equipment for hockey versus cleats for soccer. And I said, honey, we're going to go soccer.
Yeah.
And she's been a goalie for soccer for 8 years now.
You love it. Love it.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. You're the last line of defense.
It's visible. And what's interesting is, like, if I'm on the ice, if my forward makes a bad play and somebody gets back behind him, he's like, that's all right. The defenseman will pick him up.
Yeah.
If the defenseman makes a bad play, that's all right. My goalie will pick him up. There's nobody to pick me up as a goalie, right? But again, I want to point out, all three of us made a mistake there.
Exactly.
But I'm the only one who got the value of the lesson because my mistake was so much more public than their mistake.
And everyone goes to you and says,
sure,
you let it in. You let it through.
Right.
No, we literally were just talking about that the other day. Like, not every goal is the goalie's fault.
No, not at all.
But you still are responsible for that process.
You absolutely are.
Wow. Well, I didn't mean to make this a hockey podcast.
No, well, you got me started now. That's all we're going to talk about.
I mean, we could talk Drew Doughty and the Los Angeles Kings. I'm a big Andre Kopitar guy.
Now you're killing me. Yeah, I'm a Sharks guy. So,
you are a Shark. So I live in Northern California.
Yeah.
I go to a lot of Sharks games.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm a Kings fan, if I'm being honest, is I became a hockey fan before the Sharks existed.
Okay, got it.
But I go back to Archis Urbe. I know all those guys.
Right.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, Kopitar and Doughty, those are two outstanding human
Yeah,
beings.
yeah.
High respect for those guys.
Yeah, hockey's a lot of fun. It's an
Yeah.
underrated sport.
It is.
If you take two things from this podcast, go to a hockey game. You'll be a fan for life. So let's talk about your schedule here at
Yeah.
the IBS 2025.
Yeah.
You have been everywhere.
Yeah.
You're going to be everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm following you. I'm cyber stalking you on LinkedIn. You were the most well-dressed man at the Nationals.
Oh,
You look
very
good.
kind. Thank you.
I was trying to
do.
figure out how technology can help me figure out where you bought your clothes. Because maybe I can get it and look good too. But what else do you have planned? What else are you doing?
Yeah. So yesterday was a really big. I spoke at the opening ceremonies, which was incredible. Right. I opened for David Spade.
Yeah.
So there.
Put that on the resume.
It's not that's overstating it just a little bit, by the way. But I had a small part in the opening ceremonies, and then I got to speak yesterday at an education session, and then yes, I was at the Nationals. I'll speak in another education session this afternoon. But mostly for me, the Builder Show is about reunion week. It's just seeing so many good friends that I've got to know over the years.
Yeah.
It just, and even though most people don't recognize this about me, but I'm an introvert by nature, so a lot of peopling is hard for me after a while, but I can't help it. I see so many good friends that actually does give me energy.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that too, and I just pointed to, if you guys saw that on video, we're talking to Jeff Shore from Shore Consulting here on the Strong Conversations podcast. Most people think stand-up comedians are extroverts.
Yeah.
100% false. It is. I tell people, think about that medium. You're on stage, dark room. I can't see you.
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
And it's just me talking.
Right.
You're inside the brain. It is an introverted exercise.
Yeah.
It is not the other way around.
Right.
But I've been saying for a long time, you don't have to be extroverted to be a really good salesperson.
Correct.
Again, that introspection actually
in many ways, it will help you tremendously to be a good in sales. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this has been tremendous, Jeff. We actually had Molly Elkman here yesterday.
My good friend Molly Elkman.
And she was amazing. Now, she had a book signing before she came over here.
Yeah.
And it went long, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
Because everyone wanted to, meet her and talk to her after she did that.
Yeah.
You do a lot with Molly, right?
We do. We have our sales leadership summit, a huge event for sales and marketing leaders, executives. You get about 800 executives, just new home sales and marketing. And so I run it on the sales side. Molly runs it on the marketing side.
Awesome.
And we've partnered together the last couple of years. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
You do a great job.
No, it's been great to get to know her. It's been great to get to know you.
Yeah.
Sharks fan aside, nobody's perfect, I guess.
Okay,
right?
fair enough.
We got some introspection there.
Yeah.
But last couple questions, and I'm going to let you go because you are very busy. You're like the James Brown of the builder industry right now, the hardest working man. What's got you excited for the builder world for the rest of the year? I mean, there's a lot of headwinds, lots of different hot topics that we're all trying to solve.
Right.
What's there to look forward to?
Well, I think there are lessons to be learned in times of adversity that we can't learn in times of prosperity. And I think that the run-up since 2012 has gone on maybe a little too long we all love good markets.
Yeah.
But you learn things about yourself, about your organization, about what good fundamentals look like in tougher markets. And I think the market has largely rewarded us for the last really 13 years straight, even if we made bad decisions.
Right.
So I think that the growth that's going to happen to us if we struggle through the next few years, and I don't think there's nothing like what we're going to see in 2008. I don't see that at all. But I do see a little bit more of a struggle, and it will be unusual because it'll be in contrast to really 13 years of run up.
And that's where creativity comes in, right? Yeah. We got to figure out ways to solve it.
Yeah.
And that's when the brain starts to go, what if we did this? What if? The most powerful phrase.
Yes. Yeah.
So what, last question for you. Last question. There's Travis from, one of our framing partners. We have the fishbowl effect. We're what's the morning show, like NBC Live or whatever?
Yeah.
And you are a professional. People are making funny faces trying to get us to break.
It's all good.
And we're just tuning them out. So last question before I let you go.
Yeah.
We are in Vegas. I've been asking everybody this question. There's casino games. There's video poker games. There's table games. You could win $1 million. You get to choose the game. Which game are you playing and why?
I'm going to play whatever game they play at Giada's, which is my favorite Italian restaurant here in Las Vegas. So I'm not a gambler. It's not, I used to, but I recognize that losing $100 feel bad more than winning $100 feels good. So I just don't. I just said, doesn't not doing anything for me.
Yeah.
So yeah. I would much rather sit in a great restaurant and have a great meal with great friends than do anything else.
All right. Well, then we'll pivot to another last
Sure.
question because you just mentioned Giada's. Give me your top 3 restaurants in Las Vegas.
In Las Vegas, yeah. I mean, for Italian, Giada's for sure. For breakfast, Bouchon in Venetian,
Yeah.
Thomas Keller's Bouchon, and then I think I'm going back Italian again. But I mean, there's just something about Carmine's.
Yeah.
You just gotta love Carmine's. So yeah. I'll
Well,
go
those,
there.
all three of those.
I'm sorry. I got to throw in Hash House a Go Go.
Nothing wrong with Hash House. The
Yeah.
first one I went to was in Reno.
Yeah.
And it was like pupils dilated.
Yeah.
I have found
Yeah.
the golden land.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Jeff, thank you so much.
That
for
was
being
really
here.
fun. I enjoyed that.
This has been a lot of fun, and I hope you guys had a lot of fun. Jeff Shore from Shore Consulting here on the Strong Conversation Studio at the Simpson Strong Tie booth at IBS 2025. Stick around. We got a lot more content coming the rest of the day and all day tomorrow. See you then.